I'm so scared. New draw? Oh. Oh. What do you mean reawakened? that was 4 months ago. Hello? All right, so let's go over the Reawakened Final Fantasy VII Rebirth draw, which is going to have all of these outfits and such. I'm going to go over this quickly here, well, as quickly as I can, I suppose. So yeah, so for folks that are interested, I have all these reviews are up on YouTube already. I can link them down in the description below for the YouTube video itself. But for the folks that are here on Twitch, they're all in my Ever Crisis playlist. If you ever wanted to get my full like description or review of the of what I feel about these banners in particular. The Tifa outfit is still not great. I mentioned before during the Final Fantasy VI review that the physical ability damage plus 15% is really low, and 15 points of physical attack is, I don't want to say it's useless, but it's basically useless. At this point, like, physical attack is too easy to get from the OB10 weapons that you're going to get from just doing regular pulls, like with your ticket draws, your daily free pulls, etc. So getting physical attack on an outfit is really not necessary, so this outfit's just not very good. Red 13, similar, but not as much. HP is a little less useless in terms of a weapon R ability that you can have in an outfit, and having boost 15 does get you to level 3 break right off the rip. And Flame Frost Fangs having resist to fire and ice for 20% is okay. Obviously that's very nichey, just like having plus 15% fire and ice ability damage is kind of nichey. Again, 15% is not very high, so it's not that big of a deal. The ice and fire resist can come in clutch for specifically things like Shiva, Ifrit, etc. The outfit, yeah, I mean, it looks cool. And like, I pulled for this because I wanted to have an outfit for Red 13 that I could use that was kind of generic. This was not it, for the record, but I did pull for it. And I've used it quite a few times. I'll be honest, I've used it quite a few times. So there's that. But other than that, I don't think this is only slightly better than Tifa's, like slightly better. Getting into the stuff that was just released a few months ago. Gambanteinn is good, not great, right? This is basically Bahamut Rod, but a more offensive version. Bahamut Rod is just better outright. Bahamut Rod has the Asuna All materia slot instead of this sigil boost slot, but again, this is a more offensive focused one. So if you wanted to have an offensive version of Bahamut Rod that was more focused on dealing damage, like physical damage, this is a great weapon. It comes with buff debuff extension, which is excellent. Comes with boost heal as well, which is obviously very good for a healing weapon. And then having a sigil boost slot on a healing weapon is not very common, if I'm being honest with you, so it's not a bad thing. So weapon itself is pretty good. It's just its only real struggle is that Bahamut Rod exists, right? And generally speaking, when you're bringing in Bahamut Rod, if you want that type of healing effect, you don't really need the physical attack increase because you have Kimura Wand, you have the new matte weapon that just released in the last update, right? There are a lot of options, even Stalwart Integrity, right? That does physical attack and physical defense both. All of those tend to be a bit more valuable for your team overall. So certainly not a useless weapon, but just it's just slightly below what we would expect from a limited weapon. The Loveless Songstress, I've actually used this a few times, simply because it starts with the extra 2.5 ATB, which can help get some of your buffs and debuffs off quickly. And then Soothing Song having plus 10% healing potency and 40% buff debuff extension is good. Obviously that's separate from our abilities, so it's always good to have those abilities that are separate. This is pretty nichey. You can combine this with things like the Nail Bat, which also have ATB boost to get her up to the 25 point break, which can get her to that 3.5 to give her basically full ATB at the beginning of the fight. And considering the fact that Aerith has multiple buff abilities, including the one that just released today, plus ATB is great. So it's another one of those outfits for Aerith that, like, is it useful? Absolutely. The problem is Aerith has so many outfits that it's hard to pick one versus the millions of others that she has available that are all like kind of generically good. So definitely wouldn't blame me if you wanted this one. It's still pretty good. Like I said, I've used it a couple of times. I do have this outfit, mostly just because I like the outfit more than anything else from Rebirth. But the effect itself is also useful, and it helped me clear some high level content. So it does exist. It's good. But yeah. In terms of Yuffie, Yuffie's water damage weapon is still one of the best in the game, if not the best in the game, and its R abilities are one of the best physical, make it one of the best physical sub weapons in the game as well. This you should absolutely have a copy of. If you don't have a copy of this already, like a 3-star copy plus, you should absolutely have this on your account. And Yuffie's weapon parts should probably be going towards this. This is one of the best weapons in the game. Not only does it do a meta relevant, well, it's a little lower with the 940% because it doesn't get that 20% boost to water damage, but it is her exploit weakness weapon as well. And because it has generic physical attack R abilities, this is her physical exploit weakness weapon to pair with her now magic exploit weakness weapon that gives the entire team 30% exploit weakness. Generally speaking, the team-wide exploit weakness will probably be more useful in most scenarios, but that does involve you giving up your second-hand weapons R abilities for physical builds for Yuffie, right? And she does have a few really great physical weapons, even though like her last weapon was magic, right? Like the guitar was magic, the holiday bell was magic, right? But Yuffie's always kind of been a split between magic and physical. And I know they're taking all of the characters that route. So regardless, it's one of the best water weapons in the game. It's not the best water weapon in the game. There are magic water weapons that do more damage than this. However, it is still very, very strong. And the outfit itself, it's gotten a little outclassed, but it's still very good. The water potency is, this is what they were doing for the new Arcanums at the end of the year in 2024. And then after these banners dropped, they switched then to the now 50% boost that you get from the secondary. So instead of getting 35, you get a 50% boost to that damage type. Where this is just generic, right? This gives water potency, this gives 35% extra water damage, so this is good for magic and physical. As of today, Yuffie does not have a magic water potency weapon to really utilize this very generic effect, but it's still very good. And it's a bit future-proof because, again, it has no physical or magic leaning, allowing you to use it for either build, which is great. And last but not least, Barret. Barret's Fafnir rifle is one of the best weapons in the game. This is, like, bar none, this is one of the best weapons in the game. It does way too much for how useful it is. It without you being above 70% HP, it provides Provoke, Veil, and an AoE damage attack with incredible R abilities, like selfish R abilities. And when he is above 70% HP, you can get your defense for your entire team up mid to high. This is by far one of the best weapons in the game for tanks, just in general. And I don't know when this will be outclassed, but it hasn't been yet. So it's been 4 months, almost 5 now, that this weapon's been out. This is still one of Barret's best weapons. And again, like I mentioned back when we did this banner review, the Fafnir rifle specifically is great for Barret because now he has 2, but he only has 2 limited weapons, right? The rest of his kit is in the featured pool, allowing you to pair this with a fully kitted out Barret, right? Which is the reason why Matt's weapon was so strong the last limit break banner that we had. that limit break weapon was so strong because you have the rest of Matt's kit available to pull for, right? You don't have to worry about the 9 or 8 different limited weapons that you can't wishlist, right? Barret's just able to utilize this with his full kit. So as that is the case, and Barret has a ton of utility in his kit, it makes him one of the best tanks in the game. And then on top of that, his outfit gives reprieve, which is amazing, and 20% resist to every single elemental attack, which is also very, very good. So this one has aged well, will continue to age well, because I doubt very much that this will be useless going forward, unless they move towards complete non-elemental damage. This is still 20% damage reduction, right? At the end of the day, and that's still very good. Again, not as useful in the fights where it's non-elemental damage, but those type of fights are pretty rare outside of things like the Bahamut fights, right? Take a look at the stamp card. Stamp card actually leaves a little bit to be desired, if I'm being honest. I was expecting there to be more guaranteed weapon slots than this, considering there are 5 outfits on this banner. Having only 2 on the first page is kind of a bummer. It is 3 on all the other ones, but that takes a lot of investment at that point. Do I recommend pulling on this banner? Not really, right? Not really, outside of doing maybe 1 pull to grab a 3-star copy of something if you missed it before. But I would imagine that most people that are watching this probably started playing, at this point, probably started playing this year. But if not, and if you have started recently, like if the Ever Crisis Academy banner is what brought you in, you know, doing a one-off pull to grab something like Fafnir Rifle is completely fine. I would just put Fafnir Rifle here. I don't know that anything else is really worth a one-off copy except for Bird of Prey would be the next one. But Fafnir Rifle is, again, far and away one of the best weapons in the game and just makes Barret a very, very good tank. Where, like, otherwise, he's still a good tank, but, like, just slightly not as good as the people who have provokes in the pool, right? Like, Angeal and Glenn both have provokes in the featured pool, and Barret does not, right? So this is Barret's only instance of provoke at this point in the game. That will change. Eventually, he will get a featured weapon that provokes, I'm sure. But in the meantime, this is pretty important for single target stages, and it's definitely useful to have. So if you don't have Fafnir Rifle at least a 3-star copy, I would pull at least once to grab the Fafnir Rifle, but otherwise I think this is pretty easy to move on from. Let's check odds really quick because I want to see. Oh, it is missing score in here too for Barret. That's good to note. So all of the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth weapons are at 1%, including Glide Gloves. So last time Glide Gloves was not featured, you had to wishlist it. So it is featured this time. Guide Gloves are fine. Like they're a good non-elemental attack, but they're just better ways to deal with non-elemental stages at this point. Not to say that it's useless, it's still very good. Like 1300% is still very good. But like, unless it's specifically physical damage, like this event as an example, there are featured weapons in the pool that do as much or if not more damage than that. So you can definitely get away with like using Vincent's Hugin Immunin as an example, which is a huge non-elemental nuke, right? This works just fine. And there are other options, right? But yeah, so that's how I feel about that banner. Like I said, if you don't have the Fafnir Rifle and if you don't have Bird of Prey and you wanted to get a copy of it, I don't fault you for doing a poll really quick. In terms of the wish list, just make sure that you're pulling things that you want, right? Like if you're pulling for Barret specifically, you can put his stuff on for a wish list, you know, Electro Cannon, Escutcheon Cannon, you know, the usual stuff, right? For Yuffie, you can put on her physical leaning elemental weapons. So the Moogle Float, the ice weapon, Spiral Shuriken, I think it's called, stuff like that. That's all very useful too. So keep that in mind when you're doing your wish list, and that's how I feel about the crossover banner. Cool that they're bringing it back, and cool that they're not locking it behind, you know, a year before we actually get to see these weapons again. I'm just surprised to see it so soon, but you know, it's good that it's back, and there are a couple weapons in here that are still very, very good. And yeah, cool, right on.